We've all got those bands that we've followed for decades. We've seen them through their ups and their downs, their highs and their lows, and no matter what point of their career you find them in, you'll always remember the songs and albums that made you a fan of them in the first place. And yes, Norway's ever-enduring Gazpacho are one such band for me. It's been a hot minute since we last heard anything from these guys, but we've got to ask ourselves something. Are they still just plodding along, or has the extended break since their last album given their songwriting enough time to develop into the vine-ripened harvest we've long deserved? Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, my name is Ian, this is Rhine Signatures, and we're once again opening the lid on the best new releases in prog rock and metal. It's funny, isn't it? I always say this is a prog rock and metal channel, and I always will. But good grief, I've not reviewed much in the way of prog rock this year, have I? In fact, I'm pretty sure the number of typical prog rock albums I've reviewed is maybe less than 5, possibly, I'm thinking. Okay, let's do a quick inventory check here. We've had Jacob Roberge's The Passing, Dominic Sanderson's Blazing Revelations, Stephen Wilson's The Overview, and maybe we want to count Orion's Into Darkness as well, but I don't know, that was also pretty metal in places. Look, the point I need to address is balance, and it's for that reason I'm super relieved that my favourite cold soup named musical combo has returned at last in order to help me out with that. Now, I remember getting my start with Gazpacho back in 2007 with the release of their landmark album, Night. I very quickly fell for its gloomy, dark, haunted beauty. It felt like it was a significant step up from their first 3 albums, which, while I still think these are good, they were certainly more faltering in their steps than Night ever was. Anyway, I was hooked and very keen for the future of the band, and they certainly didn't disappoint. TikTok, Missa Atropos, March of Ghosts, and Demon all showed a band who had found their creative stride. Each and every one of these albums showed a new and exciting shimmer of the band's creative glow. And each and every one of these albums kept competing with the previous one for the accolade of being my favourite in their discography. I mean, ultimately, if you asked me to choose, I think I would probably call either Demon or Night as my favourite, though. They both managed to scratch a very particular itch that so far only Gazpacho have really managed to do. But in the interests of being very transparent, I'll be honest with you all, everything since Demon hasn't been exactly lighting my world on fire. Moloch, Sawyers, and Fireworker were all good albums, but I don't know. That very particular spice from their earlier records felt absent. It oftentimes felt like Gazpacho were creatively treading water, largely recycling some of their earlier ideas and failing to innovate in the right places where efforts were being made to do so. But now, with the longest break between albums of 5 years, Magic 8 Ball had neatly arrived in my promo inbox around about a month or so ago, I think it was, and with it came the reminder of the band that I once fell in love with. Is this break in the action enough to have allowed Gazpacho time to refocus and rearm themselves creatively, or is it too little too late with the sink into the swamp? So the one thing I've always felt is at the core of Gazpacho's sound is maintaining an air of mystique. And for lack of a better description, a sense of dark fairy tale. There's always been a sense of Nordic folklore about what they put out, and the same is very much true here on Magic 8 Ball. To quote the press release, Magic 8 Ball is built around the idea of fate, how it moves without warning, and how the choices we make can slowly strip away who we thought we were. The album is structured as a series of short stories. Each song follows a different character at a breaking point, moments where something changes permanently, whether they see it coming or not. Now, I think this structuring works incredibly well for the album. It gives it a great sense of cohesive identity, but it also allows you to enjoy the tracks in isolation of each other should you wish to do so. And we've got a great selection to choose from here. There is a veritable Nordic chocolate box of treats, all wrapped up in that signature darkened melancholy that we've come to know and love. Now, for all the time that has passed between albums, there is an immediate warmth and familiarity here to the sounds. Jan Henrik Ohm is still kind of doing his Radiohead thing here, but he's really doing a great job of making it his own. His voice is more refined and confident and really assuring in its delivery. It's smooth like butter and carries somehow an equal air of menace and melody to every line that he delivers. The opening track of Starling feels like it would sit right at home on a sister album to Night. There's these eerily familiar violin strings, and an ethereal sense of mournful calm seems to settle over the entire 9-minute-long arrangement. Now, it's always a bold and interesting choice to have the longest song on the album take the lead, but I think it really works here. It blends a little bit of everything that we've come to associate with the band, and it kind of freshens it up a bit for modern ears. But Gazpacho aren't trying to ape their past successes here. Magic 8 Ball has a sense of its own self amongst the band's rather extensive discography. There is a delightful feeling of playful whimsy in parts too, especially on 4th track Ceres and the title track itself. The band plays really well with some more pop-like melodies and structures on these tracks, even managing to gasp create some genuine earworms in places here. There's a smattering of feeling and influence from across the modern progressive rock board going on here too. The second track of We Are Strangers and its heavily processed opening vocal run gives rise to memories of Spock's beard in the early days of Ted Leonard on the microphone. And then we kind of open things up to comparisons to the likes of the Pineapple Thief in the vocal phrasing of the chorus. In the best possible way, I can pretty much hear Bruce Sword singing this one in my mind's eye. The shorter tracks on the album, while undeniably still good, are noticeably weaker than the deeper, longer cuts on the album. Sky King, Gingerbread Men, Starling, Immer War, and Unrisen have all become fast favourites across the band's entire catalogue for me, truly showing off just how much this 5-year wait has been worth it. There's a great sense of personality to all the tracks here, but especially these longer ones. Gazpacho have really stretched the limits of what they can do with their sound while still being unmistakably themselves, and it's been such a treat to experience this whilst I've been listening to the album. The slightly selfish part of me would have quite liked to have a really meaty epic thrown into the mix, to rival the likes of Death Room, Dream of Stone, or Space Cowboy, which I will acknowledge was the best part on an otherwise middling album from Fireworker. But the given 8-track format is more in keeping with the majority of what the band has done in the past. And it certainly doesn't disappoint with how much meat is on the bones of this record. There's very little in the way of meandering or scuffing of the heels, refusing to get to the point, etc., etc., but it also doesn't abandon the band's typical build-ups and payoffs. There's still space for the tracks to breathe and mature over their runtimes, but nothing feels like it's getting, glancing at your watch with impatience or anything like that. Ultimately, though, this album isn't reinventing the wheel. It is most assuredly a Gazpacho album, and whether or not that's something you'll enjoy is entirely down to how much you value your time you've already spent with the band. If you're more of a fan of their middle period albums, as I am, then this will definitely be scratching an itch that the last 3 albums just haven't been able to do for me. Now, whatever you do, don't come to this record expecting blistering guitar solos, manic drum fills, head-spinning bass grooves, dizzying keyboard arpeggios, or glass-shattering vocal performances. Gazpacho have never been that kind of prog band, but honestly, I'm kind of glad for that. If you want virtuosity, there's a million bands out there who can play these 8,000 notes a minute things. Gazpacho have always been content to pull at the emotional heartstrings. And believe me, when those last 2 minutes of the 5th track Gingerbread Men kick in, you'll be far too busy emotionally reenacting that scene from Pixar's Ratatouille where Anton Ego takes his first bite of the titular dish to even care.
Ride the danger of our desire. We are strangers in the silver.
So, what else can I possibly say about Gazpacho's Magic 8 Ball? Nothing fills me with joy, quite like a band I'd almost given up on, roaring back into life with one of their most enthusiastic and exciting records in over a decade. Demon was in truth the last time that Gazpacho thrilled me. Its dark Del Toro-esque fairy tale vibe was delightfully sinister, and it was everything I wanted from the band at the time. Magic 8 Ball's overall tone may not be as consistent as that, with tracks kind of hopscotching from towering atmospherics to the gleefully whimsical without as much connective tissue between them as I might like, but it's how well the individual elements are managed here that have made this album such a delight to return to over and over again. Honestly though, I'm just glad to be really enjoying a prog rock record again. I've always been a metal first kind of guy, as well you know, but I've still listened to a lot of the softer stuff that's been coming out this year regardless. But not much of it has really thrilled or excited me in the ways that it seems to have done so for my contemporaries. Now, I'm happy to accept that this is absolutely a me problem rather than an issue with the respective bands, but I don't know, just in a lot of ways, thank God for Gazpacho finally swooping in to address the balance on this channel between the light and the shade. It really has felt like a very long 5 years since Fireworker came out, but frankly though, if this is the result of that kind of waiting period, I will happily wait another 5 years for whatever may come next from this enduring pillar of modern Norwegian progressive rock. Now, I ordered myself a copy of the vinyl pretty quickly after digesting the promo a few times, and I'll be very, very surprised if this doesn't feature in some capacity or another during my year-end awards season. Obviously, a physical purchase is definitely encouraged here. Gazpacho are finally back, and they have got plenty to say. The album comes out officially on Friday, October 31st, so once you've had a chance to wrap your ears around it, please come back here and tell me if you loved it, if you hated it. What were your thoughts and experiences with Magic 8 Ball? Let me know in the comments down below. Please do drop me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, please do tell your friends about little old me, and please do consider subscribing to the channel if you've been enjoying my brand of irreverent content so far. But until next time guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures pretty odd.